today the goal is for us to be connected through storytelling. So thank you for everyone that's tuning in. Now I got to go do the formalities, y'all, since we're being recorded. And for those that may be listening at a different time, I want to welcome you. And if you're new to Circles, shout out to you. For those that don't know, I'm also a facilitator on Circles. And what's important to me is that I align myself with any organization that matches my mission and my values. And one of those is to rid the world of loneliness, right? I believe it's one of the most crippling things in this world. You can choose to have alone time, but the aspect of not being able to connect to people that share the same journey or story and life challenge is really what Circles is about, right? So we have way over 160,000 people now on the app, and you know that there's on-demand 24/7 small audio rooms led by some of you all that's in this room, right? Some of our mental health experts, and I've said this and I'll repeat it. I hold to it: 10 feet, 10 toes down, 10 feet down. Please don't have 10 feet, you all. But I really believe that this is the biggest interdisciplinary team that I've been on, so take advantage of it. And for our listeners, I want you all to know that this will be recorded. You probably saw the prompt as you saw at the end. It will be available via Spotify. So if you missed something, don't worry. We'll engage with it later. But again, just so we can build a sense of community, I think Charm, Elisa, Rachel, I'm about to say Rachel and Carla and Beth, you all know that I like to do the game you have to answer. So we're going to jump right into the chat real quick. This was really getting to know RJ. So welcome, Acadia. We're going to, oh, it's Elisa. Hey, hey, okay. Welcome. All right, so let's jump into our questions, and I'll probably ask RJ as she joins. First question for you all. First question that I have, and remember this, and if Beverly joins you all, it's a this or that. It's not a in between, it's not an all of the above. You have two options, you pick one, okay? So answer it honestly, immediately. Some of them will be silly, some of them will be personal, but it's your, I'm just nudging you so we can actually get to know each other, jump out that comfort zone. So here we go. First one is going to be, let me see what I would like to ask. Um, okay, let's go broad. All right, city lights or starry nights? City lights or starry nights? Oh, shout out to you. Oh, you're a brand new Floridian. Welcome. Starry nights, Rachel. Okay, Acadia, starry nights. Ah, I like what I see. I like what I see here. Starry nights. Okay, I'm gonna drop something else in the chat real quick. And you can get caught up later. I'm gonna drop something else in the chat. So for me, the next thing I'm very interested in, this is my core question. If you don't know, RJ is an archivist. And so this question I formulated from her, and I actually piloted on my group on Friday. So I'm gonna share it with you all. Would you prefer to save a historical artifact from the past or securing a groundbreaking invention for the future? Okay. Would you rather save a historical artifact from the past or secure a groundbreaking invention for the future? Lisa says groundbreaking. Katia says historical. Okay, Beth, carry a groundbreaking invention. Rachel, groundbreaking. I would not have guessed that for you. Okay. All right. Let me frame two more. And while I frame this next one, I'm going to check in with RJ real quick just to make sure she's able to join. My next one, you all know Creole is my native tongue. So my first tongue, Haitian Creole. So I want to ask this question. And no, Katie, don't share the why yet. Don't share the why. I'm the same with you as well. I love technology and all these things, but don't share the why yet. I want people to be intrinsically interested, right? Part of this is getting curious with the people that join the room, and not just join spaces and feel like we leave the same way we came, which is like complete strangers. The goal is actually to find a connection point and learn a little bit about yourself. So here's a question for everyone. Would you rather speak all languages fluently or play every musical instrument effortlessly? So Okay, RJ just joined. And welcome, RJ. Welcome, 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 welcome. We just started the icebreaker, RJ, and I'll ask you a few of these questions when you come back on. But first, the last question we just asked was, would you rather? And again, I'm being kind of biased, you all, with this question because, like I said, Creole is my native tongue, and then I am a huge clarinet fanatic. That's my instrument of choice. So that's why I'm asking this. This is a tough question for me, but it's interesting that Rachel, I do have a follow up question for you, but I'm not going to ask it yet. And RJ, when we get to your interview, I have a specific question for you, which is the prior question. Would you prefer saving a historical artifact from the past or securing a groundbreaking invention for the future? So think about that one as we jump to our last one. And our last question, let me see. Ooh, somebody might judge me on this. It might be Beth. All right, all right, all right. Let me ask you this question. All right, you all, I'm not vain. I'm not vain. I just want to show that we could. There's some questions we have to think about, but it's in that pursuit of knowledge and education and understanding. We start to define our values and our preferences. So here we go. Would you rather? Do not judge me. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Would you rather never age physically or mentally? Okay. You trust me, this question has a lot of value of your beliefs and your understanding as it pertains to life. Let's see. Oh, Bev, I would have thought the other way. That's interesting. Acadia said very bad. Okay, Acadia. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's do one more. Let's do one more. Okay, you're right. You're right. That's a bad question. Ladies, don't judge me. I should have asked my wife about it. Don't judge me, okay? Um, okay, this is a good one. I'm a Florida, New Floridian charm. I want to hear your answer to this one too. Just put it in the chat. This is my last one. Endless summer or eternal winter? Yes, I know, Beth. Okay, I stopped it. Trust me. Trust me. I stopped it. Um, endless summer or eternal winter? All right, let me see. No one loves winter? Oh, Beth. All right, Beth. Yes, she is. She is. And we have a funny story about that. But I'm gonna stop here because I want to get some time because it's 7:15 my end PM Eastern time. But this is a fun game, you all. Hopefully, I'm about to wrap up here, I want you to reflect real quick. What is something you learned about yourself while doing this, right? This part is self discovery. It's about preferences, but it's a fun game. You see the diversity of answers, but you also see some personal preferences here, both silly. You saw Katie call me out, right? Now that we've gotten to know each other a little bit, I want you all just to hear the voice, the sultry voice of RJ real quick. RJ, I'm going to ask you to come off mute real quick. We're not going to introduce you fully yet because I prepared for my introduction for you. I want to ask you this question, and I think you may have placed it in the chat. But for you, being that you're an archivist and you're a historian, a historical buff, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to save a historical artifact from the past or secure a groundbreaking invention for the future? And please give us your why.
Okay, so I'm going to save an historical artifact because I believe that that historical artifact can actually be used for that groundbreaking thing that's going to happen in the future.
Ooh.
Yay!
Ooh. I love it. I love it. You know, I'm gonna be very upfront and honest. You know, I actually so I already assumed you were going to answer that way because you're deeply invested in the how would I say this? Preservation of culture,
Yeah,
especially Black culture, right?
yeah.
So I actually formulated this question because of you, by the way, for this specific interview. And so hopefully you all, first off, you hear her voice. She's an awesome interviewer, awesome podcaster, awesome community developer, an
Oh,
awesome historian. And so I just wanted you all to hear the voice. But as we do this, RJ, I want us, we've gleaned a little bit of your preferences. I
okay.
want you to sit back and allow me to introduce you real quick.
Okay,
right?
that's
And okay, and then we're gonna do a together. It's the collective breath. It's called the road to purpose. It's going to orient us why we're here today, and then immediately afterwards, we're going to go into a semi-structured interview with RJ. We're going to spend about 15 to 20 minutes hearing from RJ and how she turned grief into purpose in cultivated areas and spaces for others. And then afterwards, I would love for you all, if you have any burning questions, anything that you heard that resonates with you, to share that. Okay. So now that we've talked a little bit, you've heard RJ. To me, a lovely Black woman who not only cherishes history, as you heard, right, but she also actively creates spaces for these narratives to be shared and preserved. Let me put it that way because she just said that. Now let me go back to my script because I'm gonna make sure I stick to the script. I can talk all day about her, but she's a connoisseur of culture. I call her a beacon of Black girl magic, an unwavering supporter of community healing. This is very important, you all. To me, RJ embodies the belief that everyone has a story, and her quote is that you have to be brave enough to tell it. So today, as we kind of peel back some of the layers, bring some tissues. I warned some people I have to bring some tissues, and we're going to hear a little bit about her journey, her aspirations, and the profound impact that her work has made. I've gotten to work closely with her, but also, if you don't know anything about RJ, if you've ever followed her, I will drop her link tree, and you'll get all her links and how to follow her and things of that nature. She enjoys tactile memories, and they're imbued in nail polish colors. So that's also part of the profound narratives of her Final 48 project. Ronika is here to remind us that the power is held in our stories. But in addition to that, the healing comes from telling them. Okay, so you heard it from her first. She said preserve the past, but if I can add something, RJ, real quick on the spot, I think it's also heal the present through storytelling.
yeah.
So I just made okay, I just made that up. Okay, you said yeah. All right, fair enough, fair enough. And as we just pause real quick, you all, just to take a moment of breath, laughter. We laughed together. I stole this from Jason Reynolds. And now we're gonna breathe together through a poem. I'll ask you all. You all created this, RJ. We created this on our first time together, a spoken word piece that everyone shared, and I just kept it here. So I use this as a moment where we can do mindfulness and do some breathing together. So as we walk through this is a poem curated by us. And remember, Pedro Gautama, a famous theologian, says that we are an already made poem when we work together. So allow me to read this in your hearing. The road to purpose. I walk this winding road, the sounds of bustling all around, the smell of fresh air, it fills my lungs and makes me drown. My heart is pounding, Elisa. I can feel it in my chest. I'm scared of what's happened. I, but I must press on. The road gets darker. The sounds of bustling fades away. I'm all alone. The only sound is my own breathing. And let us all pause, welcome page, and let us all take a breath on the count of three. One, two, three. Breathe in through your nostrils and exhale. But Lori, I know I'm not going to stay. It's getting harder to breathe. My chest is tight. My lungs are burning, but I keep going. I know I'm almost there. I can hear people talking, RJ. The cars honking, the children laughing. It's all so loud. It's almost deafening. Beth, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's bright and radiant and focused. It's getting brighter. I almost touch it, Charm. I can feel my fingers burning. I know that's where I'm going, KD. Be married, that's where my purpose is. And I take a deep breath. Join me, everyone, as we take another breath on the count of three. One, two, three. Breathe in community and exhale individuality. And I keep walking, Florida, and I know I'm almost there. I can feel it in my bones. I reach the end of the tunnel and I'm blinded by the light, Carly, but I keep my eyes open and I see it. See it, Acadia. It's my purpose. It's been waiting for me, Paige, with open arms. I run to it, and I'm finally home. Welcome home, everyone, to your purpose. Thank you. And I'm excited as I stop after this, you all, and take a breath. Today, we talked about the person that has captivated audiences through the Please Do Tell podcast. She's dedicated her career to captivating these narrow, I want to say the narratives of like sorrow and triumph. Let me put it that way. But also recently, I got a chance to see this because I want to underscore this. She does have advocacy in this, but she recently had a role in the Vagina Monologues. And if you know anything about it, this is something curated to make sure that no voice is left unheard, especially women, right? And so she's also for Pechakucha Nights. She's the standard host, not stand-in host, the standard host. So part of all the story arcs that I've learned, I learned from being someone that actually was invited by RJ to share my story. And so RJ, again, it's my privilege to have you share your profound insights, your journey from grief to purpose. So I'm going to ask you all just on the screen, just heart real quick and give extending welcome to who I believe is a beacon of hope and healing, Ronika Williams, or she's allowed me to call her RJ. Welcome, RJ. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And
Thank
thank you for being.
you.
I love your
Whoa.
voice.
Like, what? I mean, sheesh, this is recorded. I mean, I need proof of all this love that you've given me this evening.
Listen. This is just the beginning of it. It's the beginning of it. And you know, this is semi-structured interview. So I told you, like, I want people to hear from you, right?
Mhm.
And you've heard me share a little bit about what you do and your journey, but I believe your journey is multifaceted, right?
Mhm.
And it's also inspiring. And truth be told, I feel like you've turned a lot of what people would consider like the grief narrative into empowerment,
Yeah.
especially for me within the Black community. Can you share a little bit of like what sparked the Final 48 project and the Please Do Tell podcast? And what's an archivist like? Tell us like what you do, why you do,
Okay.
if you don't mind sharing.
I can actually start there. Archivist. So I'm the youngest of three, and we're from a very small town in Michigan called Ben Harbor. And there's an age gap between myself and my two older siblings. So it was a lot of me having grandparents as like your best friends if you're not going outside every day. And really asking, going through the picture albums and asking my grandparents like who different people are, and then reading every day. My job with my grandfather was to read the obituaries. So just starting there, I knew that there was so many stories that I wanted to preserve because I would read these obituaries to him every night and ask about the dash. You know, we with everyone that goes through this life's journey is you're going to have a dash, and that is your life. So your beginning, your end. So I was asking my grandfather about the dash because I felt as though, especially the Black people that I saw in those obituaries, in the obituary section, didn't have a story. Like it was, they died on this day, they were born on this day, and this is where the funeral is, and it was nothing else. So in those moments, I was able to hear my grandfather talk about these people in a more intimate light, people that I will never get to meet, but he had special memories with them. So I look at it as if like the letters the correspondence, the cards, there's a reason why we hold on to those things. They invoked a certain memory. So when I think about especially Black history, and from my background of working in the Museum of the Confederacy in Richmond, Virginia, more than anything is that our stories are valid, and they need to be heard, but it's a lot of times that our stories are left in boxes, and we don't think that, oh, because they weren't a famous person, it doesn't matter. Every family archives holds the key to what's going to be able to empower the generations, and that is our stories. That was so long-winded, but yeah,
Right.
that's how I came up to art to be an archivist. Should I just go right into Final 48?
Oh yes, because you know that's quite impactful. But I gotta let us breathe on that because
Okay.
you're literally curating culture through how you told your story. Like there's so many times, and really what stood out to me, I remember there was this podcast I was listening to, and as a pastor, they were basically saying they suggested that if you want to be a community leader, go read the stories in the obituaries, go talk to the funeral homes because there's so many stories that have not been told that shapes the cities in which you want to change, right? But if you
Mm-hmm.
do not know those stories, you're not really making change. You're just being a part of the change, right? And so know what changed the places that you're in, know what changed the landscape. And so when you talked about that dash, um, like I just felt this aspect of in stories we heal, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we have to know our dash. We have to know our dash. So yeah, I love the fact that you shared all that. But I'm now interested as well. The 48 final 48 project. You've talked about grief in the Black community. But I also know personally that it's influenced your personal healing process and your
Mm-hmm.
sense of purpose. Do you mind sharing how has that project impact that?
Yeah. So I can start with like starting in 1996. My father's mother died. So my granny, that's affectionately that's what we called her. But that was my granny. Um she died, and then it was I felt like I was going to funerals every 6 months for the next 3 years. And it was especially on my dad's side. And it was his mother, his sister was less than a year later, his brother, and then his father. And then I had a cousin that was actually murdered by death by gun violence in there as well. And as a 15, 16-year old, you're just looking around like, why isn't anybody talking about this? Why are we just going on as business as usual? So my dad, for the next, oh my gosh, maybe 11 years after she passed, my dad started forgetting my birthday because I was the birthday present of my grandmother. I was born the day after her. And he would forget my birthday. And just one year I got tired. I looked at the calendar because he would put all of his doctor's appointments on this big calendar that would be on the wall. And one day it was, or one particular year, he had a doctor's appointment on my birthday. And so it had doctor's appointment on there, 9 a.m. And I said, oh, it's something else going on that day. And he said, oh, yeah, what is it? I said, my birthday. Like, my birthday is, you've made a doctor's appointment on my birthday. And he said, you know what? Since your granny died, I have erased everything that was attached to her from memory. I said, including your child's birthday. So that was probably the first time that I heard my dad openly say that he never dealt with his grief. So that was us having that conversation about what does healing even look like? What does my healing look like? Because I had to acknowledge that. I had to speak up and say that I'm seeing a shift here. I've been noticing it for a while, and now I can finally connect the dots of this is why you've been just kind of distant from important dates. And so as I go through it, and as we continue to heal together, and just I'm finding these ways of like showing more love and compassion to my father. Like, he's always been um a provider. He's always been just very stern with us. We always knew he loved us, but he just never said it. And so that was the next couple years I spent those times just like getting used to him hugging us, getting used to him saying I love you. So he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And well, I don't even really know when he was diagnosed because he didn't really tell us. But my dad ended up dying in February of 2013. Um, it seemed like it was really quick. It was really fast. He took that journey by himself. I got to his bedside on a Monday afternoon. He was gone by Wednesday afternoon after I gave him the three promises, and that was to start doing documentaries, to complete grad school and to start and to do a children's book series and dedicate that first book to him. And so after I gave him those 3 promises, he was gone. And that's how the Final 48, the name and just the purpose was birthed, because I said, I can't go through this life by myself and grieving. And so my sister and I decided to go to grief counseling, and we looked around the room and it was no one that looked like us. And I told her, I said, I've drawn strength from my friends that have lost a parent. So what would it look like if I started doing stories of just Black folks in grief? Because we know historically in our family, no one's ever talked about it. So we can't be alone. And so it's like, gosh, 10 years, almost 10 years later, traveling around the country, collecting these stories, still have stories in my archives that I haven't felt led to release them yet. But yeah, that's how that started. And that's how the name even came to be, was Final 48, because everything that I told my dad in those last 2 days with him, yeah.
Man, RJ, I'm falling in love with you all over again. Um, uh, Lord help me with my words. And yeah, I'll stick to the script, but I do want to say to you, it's such a beautiful thing to start unraveling layers of people that you already know, right?
Mhm.
Because what you know doesn't actually help you to. And here's what I'm trying to say. I learned more about myself when I hear you speak, right?
Mhm.
I resonated deeply with the aspect of I'm of Haitian descent. My dad basically told me on the time after I tried to, I contemplated, I had suicidal ideation and contemplated taking my life. That was the first time my dad shared with me that he was like, well, Didi, he calls me Didi. He said,
Mhm.
Didi, well, my dad never said I love you to me, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and I was recently listening to Kerry Washington on a podcast, and she was like, we got to remember that people with trauma were raised with people with trauma, right? And, you
Yes,
know,
yes,
girl,
yes.
go ahead. What are
I'm
your
like,
thoughts on that?
yes, yes. No, my dad, he told me that. He said, I didn't grow up in a household where my father went around saying, I love you. He just made sure that we had food to eat and there was a roof over my head.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
that was their that was their love
yeah,
language, acts of service. Go ahead. Sorry,
yeah,
I didn't mean to cut off.
yeah, yeah. So but I look at his mother, I said she was amazing. And I felt there would be one grandchild after me, but I am the youngest granddaughter on that side, is that I felt cheated. I felt cheated that I'm
Yeah.
like, I didn't get to experience this. I got to experience 12 years with that amazing woman. I said, you all had much more time than I did, but she didn't really say I love you either. But he said I knew it. I knew she loved me, but she didn't have to say it. I said, well, I need to hear it.
I love it. I
Because
need
I'm
to
like,
hear
I not knowing them, but I was like, my love language is words of affirmation.
affirmation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I need to hear that all the time. Please. Thank you. As I'm going out in this world and that's what I said to him. I said, I'm going out in this young world. I'm going out in this world as a young woman. I need to know my daddy loved me. It's simple. I'm going on a college campus. I need to hear often that my father loves me. And that switch, it happened.
Yes, yes, yes. Let me switch headsets real quick because this is getting too good for me to miss. Just give me 1 second. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Um, RJ, give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. There's something you just said here. Here we go. I'm so sorry, RJ. But I heard everything you said. First off, this is I'm already telling you I'm going to need to bring you a different conversation because that's a whole conversation in itself, right? the
Mm-hmm.
aspect of we talked about assertiveness, getting what I need in the spaces where the people that love me the most should know, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but also transitioning beyond our loved ones and still in search of love and trying to find spaces and places that cultivate safety for love language, right?
Yeah.
There's so much there. But when we talk about, because I see you as a curator of culture, right? And also someone that I would also say your love language is words of affirmation, but you also seek healing, right? You
Mm-hmm.
talked about the grief counseling and things of that nature. Now, you know, I'm very big, my worldview is on faith. And part of the reason this room was curated and created was because there was a member that was joining one of my groups. And she basically was like, Denard, her name's Kristen, and shout out to her. She said, Denard, people are joining your room. And she was like, I heard your ministry was birthed out of misery, but it seems like people are looking for more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see faith as in healing as like a cornerstone during times of grief, right? And I see faith helping as a level of guidance, but it's also a place of grappling. So, do you mind sharing how has your faith guided you through your journey, and how do you incorporate it? Let me put it this way: into as I put it in the guide, and how do you curate it for people to have safe spaces as well? So, how did your faith guide you on your journey from grief to purpose, and how did you incorporate it in providing safe spaces for others?
Okay. So there was one thing that an advisor, the advice that she gave to me when I decided to start going out and collecting stories for the Final 48 project. I remember coming into it was a summer seminar class. I came in and I had collected, I think at that point, maybe 3 or 4 stories. And I went in before the class and I'm presenting. And the beautiful thing is it was a Black woman leading this particular seminar, and she said to me, she said, "I don't see your story in there."
Mm,
And I just froze, and she said, "Where's your story? Like, you started this. I heard you say you started this because of your father losing your own father, and then you wanting to talk to Black women who lost their fathers, and then you realized that this was a problem across all Black people, not talking about grief. So, but where is your story?" She said, "This project isn't going to go anywhere until you share your story." And she didn't take her eyes off of me that entire speech she gave to me, because she knew I needed it. She knew I was holding back because I was afraid of where this project was going to go. I said, "Oh, no, it's just fine. Me just kind of documenting my friends. And then maybe it'll live online and, maybe somebody will read it." And then a pastor named Maurice McAfee, his father, his father actually married my parents. And his father died a year after my dad. And so when I asked this pastor to be a part of the Final 48 project, I knew that I had to put my story before his in order for him to trust, like, it is okay, Black men, to tell this story. It is okay. I told my story. So I'm saying I took her advice. I went and told my story. I didn't really post about it. I didn't really share about it. Um, but it was me doing it. The eliminating the fear, walking in faith, like, okay, God, you got me on this journey, and I have to be transparent. I have to be vulnerable. That was like the word that still hangs over my head. Be vulnerable, be transparent, be transparent. But I released my story, and then I released his story. And then it was almost like the floodgates opened. And I said, okay, God, you was waiting on me to act before this project would even go anywhere. And more people that I was interviewing or just kind of talking to them about the project, they were saying that no matter what, if someone walked away from God, if someone just questioned God, they said within every story that you've told, you can read them and know that faith is somewhere in there. Like, I don't know where that faith came from. They'll say, I don't know where that strength came from. But there is a consistent thread through all the stories. And I don't even ask about it because that is your story to tell. But they're all grounded in faith, all of them. So I have really gotten strength from that, strength from people trusting me with their stories.
Man, RJ, I just fell in love with you again. I just keep falling in love. There's so much that you're saying, like people trusting you with their story. And going to let's combine the storytelling as therapy, right? Because storytelling can be that tool and it's a powerful tool. And I love the way that you were like, I don't need to ask it. It's the fact that people share their faith is what gives it the beauty, right? That we can tap into. I love that. So how has your approach to storytelling evolved as you've navigated your own journey, right? So I hear with Pastor McAfee, you keep creating space for people. How did you use it to facilitate healing for others in the sense of like someone, because I can tell my story, right? But that can probably open up old wounds, new wounds. And then just like you said, the floodgates were open, right? So now that transparency and vulnerability, now it's like community is all in my business.
Yeah.
So how did you use that to facilitate healing for others? But also, how did your approach to storytelling evolve?
Yeah. So in the midst of all this, I was switching full-time jobs because the Final 48 project, I do not ask anyone to like pay me to tell me their story. I'm like, are you serious? It's a privilege that you're even here sharing. But my ask is always like, hey, share it with your family and your friends. Like maybe they'll share it with someone and this story will not only resonate with them, but resonate with someone else. So that's my whole thing with just paying it forward, paying that story forward. So I was working for a local Boys and Girls Club and they were partnering with a grief peer support organization. And I said, okay, well, you know what? I think I want in on this. So we were actually facilitating a group with teenagers and talking about their journey with grief and different activities. And then the lead facilitator or coordinator, I would say, from Lori's Place, she's been knowing me all my life. So it was great for me to even reconnect with her. She said, I'm looking for other resources because, it's limited as far as like grief. And then I said, oh yeah, I got a website I can show you. And I pulled up Final 48. She was like, wait a minute. This is yours? I said, oh yeah, I've been, just this became like a little project that I did. She said, no, there's nothing little about this. Nothing. Like, don't even shortchange yourself about this. So she went back and showed her boss, who I love. So I'm talking about Denise Thomas and then Stephanie, who is the director of Lori's Place. She saw the website. Next thing I know, they were saying that how can we collaborate more? Like, what do you want to do moving forward with Final 48? Because they did bring up the really something I was struggling with. I have everyone telling these stories, and it was like, what's next? We're opening those old wounds, but what's next? And I would always tell people when we sit down and do our one-on-ones for a Final 48 story is that I did both peer, I did both the group, and I still do the group, and I did one-on-one. I had a therapist. So it's whatever route you want to do, but it's whatever you feel is comfortable for your healing journey. So I told them, I said, I want to be able to do grief brunches in my community. What would that look like? And they were like, oh, okay, let's see how that works. And so we got some other community members together, and then we formed the Community Grief Alliance. And I said, okay, all right, this is actually going somewhere. We're gonna, okay, there's a next. We're moving forward. And those grief brunches turn into grief dinners, and we have speakers, and then Stephanie got so because they have a 50. I'm not a 501c3 with Final 48 Project, whereas Lori's Place is, so they are my fiduciary, and so they start writing grants. Next thing I know, we are doing grief dinners. We had at our last grief dinner, we had a speaker, Dr. Bernice Patterson, who is a Black psychologist. So it's not only bringing people to the table around food, but it's around these stories to heal together, to share those different grief stories, and also know that it's not always a sad journey. There was one participant that walked away from the last dinner and said, my God, I forgot that you can actually laugh during this journey. He said, Dr. Bernice, because Dr. Bernice, not only is she a psychologist, she's also an ordained minister. So she's able to bring these perspectives of faith and, her wealth of knowledge and education. So, yeah, I'm always thinking about what's next. So it was like, I can't just have these stories just live online. What does that look like? So with the Community Grief Alliance, I said, okay, this is our beta. And then we can see how this works, and then we can just start it in other places. So I'm starting that here because the website and reading through the stories just isn't enough. We always need a what's next. Where do you find your community outside of the internet?
You already answered my question. You getting loved in the chat. Cause I was gonna say looking ahead, like what's next and what do you want to achieve? Like for me, my goal right now is age 40. There's things, so you already answered it. But before we go, because I want to make sure there's time in these last 10 minutes that they can engage with you, your community that you just created here.
Okay.
Um, any final reflections or pieces of advice for those that are trying to find like their way through that pain to the purpose, especially those navigating that complexity of the landscape of grief from like, man, I actually can laugh, I can also preserve the past. There's some things I've been saying I can't let go, but that's part of my healing, and then also I don't know what's next. So what piece of advice would you give to someone that's still like trying to find their way and they feel like they're just stumbling in the darkness?
Okay, so I have a short story. I was in New York a couple weeks ago with my oldest school age friend, and we were just kind of talking about how growing up we would call the time number, which was 9264151. Don't ask me why I still remember it, but I do, because that was really the only number that I could call from the landline. And people have always asked me, well, how much time did it take for you to get past like really mourning your father? And my answer was always, grief has no time limit. You have to do what's best for you. And so I said that about the time lady is that people that follow me or people that know me, or when I text back and forth and they notice it, is that I would post certain snaps or stories at the top of the hour. And text messages, if I can catch it just right, I'm going to craft a text message before at the top of the hour so I can send it at the top of the hour. But I would always call that time lady at the top of the hour just so I can hear her say, oh, it's 12 o'clock. Exactly. Because I knew that I wasn't going to hear that again. And time is something that you cannot get back. So you need to revisit your love languages, and not just for someone to do that for you, but for you to do it for yourself. If I know that if my love languages is words of affirmation, I'm trying to feed that as much as possible. So I'm trying to be in places where I'm fed, where it's positive. I'm trying to be around people that are nurturing to me. I'm trying to remove myself when I'm like, "Ooh, this is tension. This doesn't feel good for me. Let me back up. Let me go recharge somewhere else." And I also found that fall back in love with the things that you neglected, or you're like, you know what? Again, I can't get this time back. So what do I have? I had an accident that happened in 2010 that affected. I've always loved nails. I've always loved just nail polish. And when that accident happened, and I would say I have a new birthmark on my hand now because it was a skin graft. I didn't want anybody. I didn't want to draw attention to that. So then I thought, man, that was time away from me talking about what happened to me, talking about that accident, because I didn't want to paint my nails. I didn't want to draw attention to it. Again, this is time wasted, and I can't get it back. So when we think about we're going through these dark times and we're going through those moments when it's just like, Lord, enough. Ask yourself, what am I doing? What am I doing that's within God's will in order to get to the other side? And know that it's going to take time. So don't waste it, because it's something that you cannot get back.
RJ, I'm gonna stop because there's so much I can say, but we want to hear from your community here. I want to just publicly say I love you. Thank
You
you.
too, Denard. And
Um,
older. Like, y'all package
you,
deep.
you already know. You already know. Yeah, she already knows. I'll tell her I'm doing RJ. She was like, okay, I got the kids. And so thank you for loving on my wife as well. And now we're gonna, if it's okay with you, I would like to turn for your community to engage with you and ask you questions. And the floor is yours. You can guide it however you want. Don't feel rushed. We tend to end at 8. I'll check back in at 8, but don't feel rushed. I want them to hear from you. I want them to experience what I felt on our journey thus far. So it'll tell you the hands. It's Lori, then Clarita. And afterwards, if you want to just call people or if you just want to continue to share, feel free. The floor is yours. So we'll start with Lori.
Okay.
Uh-oh, Lori, I think you're not unmuted yet. There you go.
Thank you, Denard. Should I call you Ronika or RJ?
You know what? Either is fine. Whichever rolls off the tongue easier, girl.
Okay, I'll call you Ronika since I just met you. I want to say, I don't really know exactly how to express my level of gratitude for your work. I've just been sitting here bawling from gratitude because, and I've shared this with Denard because he's known me for a little minute now. And one of my biggest fears was feeling like the person who I thought was the most incredible person in the world, almost objectively, not just because of the love that I received from him, but because he's just smart and a force on the world, thinking that he would be forgotten and that it would be acceptable I'm speaking about my father's story to be forgotten, and thinking that the world is going to keep reinforcing the notion that his story doesn't need to be told, even though in my heart, I'm thinking there has to be a how do I say this? There has to be a platform or a venue or a method of sharing his story. And not that I've I guess done a lot to do that, but the fact that it exists is just your program exists. It's just very it feels like a gift, because I know that my story and my pain and my fear that I experience is not just with me. It doesn't just lie with me,
Yeah.
But I think it's especially hard for communities that have been oppressed in specific ways, but it's also just hard for everyone. So I just want to hold space to say thank you. So that's first.
I'm like, thank you. I'm over here like, okay, just work through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one. The second one is I wanted to know, I had a question for you. I wanted to know if you had any tips or guidance in regards to people. I don't know how to explain this the best way, but the best way I can think to explain it is fostering a connection or a relationship with their loved one that they've lost after death. I've been doing grief groups for a while, and a lot of these groups and things I've read have talked about fostering that relationship, because you don't just forget the person and just move on, and it's not it's about an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you already very much have that, and have that for foster that for other people. But I wanted to know if that's something that maybe you could provide some feedback for, or tips, or I don't know, anything that comes to mind or comes to your heart in regards to what I'm saying. Hopefully I'm coming across in a clear way.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure that I understood the question too.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
no,
yeah.
thank you for that, because it was like you don't know what you're doing until others tell you, like, oh no, this is work. Because there were many nights where I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Is this even working? Is it even worthwhile to keep going? And I keep getting reminders that it is. So thank you.
You're welcome.
When my dad died, I instantly went on this journey of self-discovery, like, who am I without him in my life? And so I was reaching back into those stories that I heard growing up, where there was a name change or all these other things were going on in the family. Like, there's other family out there. And so I just went on this quest of trying to find them. And I kept running into these brick walls of like, oh, you need to talk to this person, and that person would die. Like, the next person they said I need to talk to, I'm like, well, like, Lord, what do you have me on? What
I
am I
know.
doing?
I had the
What's
same thing.
happening? Yeah, it's like, what's happening? Until it was literally 4 years, 3 to 4 years after my dad died, that I started finding extended family, because as an archivist, I had to sit down and go through all of his things. And the beautiful thing about an archives is that there's clues there. And it was so many clues within, like, bills and old pictures. Like, it was messages written on the back of old pictures and albums, that it's like, okay, there's something here. So I think if you're in search of something, it's out there, and you just have to have I'm going to say the push, the determination to find it. Like, there's a question inside of you that you want to be answered, and only you can go on that journey to answer it. So you have to find out what that question is. What do you want to know now that person is gone? What do you want to know about yourself, or about that person? Because I wanted to know where my father's mother's side came from, because I, as I stated before, only had 12 years with her. So that means that her extended family, because she's no longer living, they're not coming around as much. So now I want to know who those people are that I haven't seen in 20, 25 years. So there was a question inside of me of, my father is now gone. What do I want to do with his legacy? I'm a part of that. What do I want to know? Am I going to be afraid of some of the things I find out? Maybe so. But am I willing to go on that journey? I'm going to do it. So you have to find that question inside of you that you're trying to answer. And you're probably going to find, it's probably going to be unlocked in your archives. You just have to look for it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Next up, we have Clarita, and then we have Charm.
Okay.
Hey, Ranika.
Sorry, there I am. I was wondering how you feel about the part that dreams play in grief.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't get off mute fast enough. I said, oh my gosh, get off. You all will learn this about me. I talk in stories because I feel like I'm like, oh God, you gave this experience to me for me to talk about it. I asked God, like as my sister said, be very specific.
Want
You know how people will ask like, oh, I want them to come to me in my dreams. I want them to come to me in my dreams. I want them to speak to me. We were dealing with my grandparents' home. Like it was an estate issue, so we had to go back and forth with an uncle that, over money, because y'all know that happens when someone dies. It's like if everything isn't written down, it's probably going to be a fight. So we weren't willing to fight, and this was the same home that my grandparents built together. I grew up in this home, and I remember walking out of that house that night and going to bed, and I said, Lord, you got to give me a sign of like, what are we doing with this house? Like, is it worth the fight? I went to sleep, and anyone that knows me, which you all will know this now, I had extreme arachnophobia growing up. I still have a little tink bit of it. If I see a spider, I am going to jump. But in that dream, it was a big, nasty spider rolling down the wall. And my dad was always the one, even in my big age, if I was over there visiting, I was calling him to kill a spider. And he appeared out of nowhere and said, let the house go. I remember waking up crying like a baby. Because I said, I specifically asked God to give me a sign. I clearly wasn't listening when I was awake. So you had to send my father to me in a dream to tell me to let this house go. And we walked away. It was very hard. But the beautiful thing of this is that my sister's childhood friend bought the house because it then went into back taxes and everything. He bought the house, and I was able to go into that house for the first time in 10 years about a month ago. And that was all because of that dream. Me being obedient from listening to what the directions were in that dream. So I absolutely believe in dreams.
Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And I'm trying to take note of all the questions. I'm getting choked up over here, you all. I'm so proud of RJ, by the way. I'm going to stop talking. Charm, feel free to pose your question to Ranika. Charm, are you able to unmute?
Hi,
There we
Ranika.
go.
Hi, Charm.
So my question is more about community. I'm trying to find a group of women, and although Circles has been amazing, I want to put myself out there and make friends, especially with women of color who hold each other in high regard and uplift each other. Um, I don't, I haven't seen much of that in my life, coming from the background that I do come from. And so my connection with people is kind of always distant. And I'm ready to break out of that and make new friends and find like-minded people. But I struggle with that because I've never seen that before. So that's very difficult for me. How would one go about that?
Okay, that's a really good question because I don't know what Denard said about me before I got on here, or how much he even remembers is that I bounced around a lot in my 20s, and I would say a little bit of my 30s. I lived quite a few places, but one of my friends is like, "You'll try to find a village wherever you're at." I said, "Because it's so important to have one." because I moved to multiple places and I knew nobody, but I left with like
Yes.
this gang of friends. So I found community from I wouldn't necessarily go this approach, but my first time was through work. And then after that, I was like, yeah, that's probably not the smartest. I was in my 20s though, and I needed I needed some friends, but it was really like what I like to do. Like I love museums, I love historical places. It was finding my community that way, and then on top of that, building it. Like I may find that one gem, that one black girl, that one cool black girl in the room is like, yes, we're gonna be friends because we like the same stuff. But I might not be friends with her. I might be friends with her sister because that happened to me. I moved to Houston. I moved to Dallas. My eyebrow artist. I saw Kim on Google. I was like, oh, okay. Went. It was a cool black girl, but she had like 10 years on me. But she was like, oh, I have a sister. She's really cool. You should hang out with her. I'm like best friends with the sister. So it's really when you're finding these common places that you love, not really going in there like, oh, okay, I might be best friends with that black girl. No, you might be best friends with that black girl's cousin because now they're going to introduce you to someone else because they're like, oh, well, we have common interests. She's cool. I can introduce you to somebody else. And then on top of all of that, you can create one around you. So it's like, oh, yeah, we do it all the time on social media because it just seems easier. We could just say yes and happy birthday and all that in the comments. But it's like, no. Genuinely, it's over your interest. So, I mean, I am going to put you on the spot. What do you like to do? Where are you at?
Well, I just moved to Florida no less than a month ago.
Okay.
So I'm brand new to a new state, and I kind of like to do a little bit of everything. I like to work out. I'm into fitness. I'm into sports. I like to go outdoors and nature, hike. Um, I do like museums as well. And I like to listen to music. I love music. I like to dance. So, yeah.
The library. Do you ever go to the library? The local library?
I do take my son there. Yes,
Do
at
you look
times.
at the adult events?
I don't.
That's another.
But
It's like, oh, what y'all doing? Because we had our whole grief dinner in the library, in the
okay.
public library. So it's like, it's so many cool things. Or even, I don't know if y'all get into like old school, like old sitcoms. The cast of A Different World
Uh-huh.
did a whole presentation at the Wilmington, Delaware Public Library. So I'm
Wow.
like, get into these public libraries, y'all, because they doing some cool stuff. And that's where you can also find community. So
Okay.
start there. Why are you over there? You taking the kids like, listen, let me see what's going on in the adult, because they mess around, have a book club, and you're like, oh, they're doing a band book, not a band, but they're doing a book club, or they're doing this, or oh my gosh, they're telling us like, oh, they're doing like a wine down at the local restaurant down the street. Go to the library.
Okay.
Go to the library.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You all listen, I'm gonna interrupt and steal RJ back real quick. And thank you for the questions. RJ, oh Lord help.
Yes.
I am so enamored by your openness and your ability to like I've always struggled to some extent with like comprehending people because I'm like, that's not what you really wanted to say. But I loved even hear how you provided, if you noticed, like Charm had this renewed sense of hope, right? Because contrary to most people's beliefs, like I might like hiking in nature, and most people feel like, oh, Florida's not it, right? Because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, but then what you said is explore the library, right? We can go to places that we've never seen.
Yeah.
And another thing that you're hinting at is they're free typically, most of those activities. It's just signing up, right? So I enjoyed all this conversation. But here's what I'd like to ask you to do as we wrap up here. And hopefully you all enjoyed it. Thank you for staying a little bit time over. being that you practice resilience through rituals with the aspect of, the painting of your nails, the coloring of your nails, excuse me. You can tell I don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
But here's what I would like to ask. What is one thing you've heard a little bit from the people that are here, right? You heard from Lori in this aspect of like, you've given me a breath of fresh air. And in some of the groups we were talking about, like this aspect of like, to me, this person is a hero, right? And she was saying that there's so many Black heroes, but the narrative has not been told. And so you've heard from that. You've heard from Charm, like I'm struggling to find my people, right? And sometimes some people are saying I'm struggling to find me, right? But what is the one message that RJ you would like to leave with your community?
Gosh, because I'm trying to think of which way I'm gonna go because I'll mess around and be over here for another 30 minutes just chit chat. Yeah, I can't get enough of giving you like grace. Time. It takes time. Everything takes time. Even today I saw I have a fur baby. His name is Cooper. And so it's been about a year since I've had him. So I was in this fur baby group and this girl had asked a question about should she take her dog to the vet or not? And the first comment was slamming her. And I said, my God, do we not know what grace is today? Like she was vulnerable enough to ask this group of women with probably 5,000 of us in there about this question. I said, you want to attack her? So we need to start operating as if everyone is operating in a space of like, I'm just trying to make it. I need a little grace. So I think it's just allowing people the grace, like, hey, just figure it out. I'm here with you. I'm here to help you out. But yeah, it takes time and allow some grace. You see the last 3 years we went through? Just a little grace.
Mm-hmm. Give yourself some grace. I just want to let that sit in for the last few seconds we have together, you all. And if it's okay with you all, I just want to, and RJ, I don't know if you would like to close with a word of prayer, if you would like me to do it. But I tend to like to close out with a word of prayer to just cultivate mindfulness. And also, I see prayer as the breath of heaven in the soul while we're here on earth. So just giving us a time to breathe, because you shared a lot with us. And I am forever indebted to you. For this, the check is in the mail. It will be $2.50.
Oh, okay. I mean, you shouldn't have told me the amount. Just tell me there's a check in the mail.
Okay, fair enough. But how would you actually? Let me not close my way. This is your space. How would you like us to close today?
I would love for us to have a quick prayer, but just for everyone to put in the chat what their takeaways was, because I'm always looking to improve. Like, was there something that was a little confusing for you? Just this chat has me in shambles. Like, so good.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll do the quick prayer, and if you want to hear from them live too, you can do that as well. This is your space, whatever way you want to do it, and then we'll wrap up whenever you're ready. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So do you want me to do the honors or do you want to do it?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. So you all know I like mindfulness. So I'll just ask you to find whatever to your right. Just turn to your right. Just find a color that's near you and just take hold of it. And then once you got it, good, you got it. Just take note of it. And then I ask you to turn to your breathing as we do this quick word of prayer. And my prayer is simple, is that whatever you learned about yourself today, add grace. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you for loving us. Even when we forgot what love was, who love is, and still trying to figure out how love looks with grace. In this simple prayer, God, I'm asking that you remind us of whatever we learned today. If we succumb to amnesia, remind us to give ourselves grace. Thank you for RJ, and thank you for everyone here. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Let's see. So RJ would like to share a moment of like feedback. This is what I'm hearing. If something resonated with you all, or if there's something that you would like, the biggest room is the room for improvement that you would like us to add to this. Let us know. We're here. And she also solicited for you all placing things in the chat. And I did see Carla's response of the dream. And I will also say next month, if anyone here in the community would like to share their story, similar to RJ, I value anyone and everyone's story. So I definitely want you to have a space to share your story. Just reach out to me and let me know. Let's see if we have any hands. Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, Ronika, I just want to say thank you. Two things really stuck with me. The first is how important this moment is, because this is the only one we have. And there goes another one, and another one, and another one. And your willingness to take your precious time to come share stories with us is truly a gift. And I am incredibly grateful for that. And also, I want to say thank you when you were talking about your father and saying that even though he didn't say it aloud often, that you know that he loved you. And for me, it's a reminder that because we're never promised the next moment, to show and tell those in my life that I love, that I do, and that I appreciate them. And I am grateful for you, and I'm grateful for this community and for this group. So thank you.
All I keep thinking is you all could have been somewhere else, but you're spending this time with me, and I do not take that for granted. So thank you.
You're worth it. You're worth it. You're worth it. That's all I got to say. And actually, RJ, before we drop off, can we actually? I'll place it in the chat. If anyone wants to get in touch with Ronika, the link tree, it has all your the YouTube links and everything, right, RJ?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to be updating it again because the next story time will launch on Tuesday, and that's actually a story time with my sister and my brother talking about me. So that's because it's National Archives Month. So I had put in the group like, oh, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm an archivist in this National Archives Month. So yeah. But yeah, so that'll be really special because we're talking about my dad. So yeah,
I love it. RJ, you'll love this laugh. I don't know if I shared this with you as we're leaving you all, because I remember you talked about this aspect that this is not about the grief journey. This is about me. I started the library information science program at Florida State, and I wanted to be a law librarian, and it's all completely online, and they're having conversations. And I feel lost. And they keep saying this word in the chat, you all, and it's they write in and out, and it's like Patron. And I'm like, RJ, in my mind, I said, why are these professional people keep talking about Patron? Like, and so I'm too afraid to ask. So I'm over here Googling, and then I'm missing more out. And RJ, I kid you not, next semester I dropped out because I was like, I couldn't figure out what patron versus patrolman. I'm not gonna be successful.
Lord have mercy, no.
But I shared that to say that. Luckily, the teacher gave me grace, and she laughed at it, the story. But I stick to it to this day, right? Because what I found is that Jason Reynolds says this, and you are teaching this in this space. If we get people to tell their stories, we'll recognize we're not just going to the library, but there are human libraries waiting to be discovered. And I hope that this was a healing process for you, RJ. It was great to hear from you as well. And if you had one word to leave us with outside of grace that you would like to share as a reminder of who RJ is, what would you say?
Resilient.
That hit. That hit. I love it. I love it. I love you, RJ.
Thank you too. No, thank you.
And you see, you're just getting, don't miss out on 3/4 of your blessing. Link up with RJ, go to the link tree. I'll actually put it in the support group afterwards as well. But I want to tell you all, thank you, Carla, Charm, Rachel, Lori, KD, thank you for being here, and continue, because we're going to keep this going, storytelling. And if you want more stories, know that she has her Please Do Tell podcast. She has the Final 48 project that she was talking about. She has story time. And then actually she has herself. And if you ever follow RJ, that's the best story she can ever tell, is that person that's still living with love.
It's uncensored though, just so you know, no filter.
It's okay. That's the way we're supposed to be. I love you all. Continue to be where you're at. And remember, for me, you can't get through what you're going through without you. Absolutely. So be blessed and have a great one. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Y'all. Bye.
Bye, Jay. Bye, Cooper.
Bye, Ronika. Thank you.
No, thank you.